A story that challenges conventional understanding. Lomonosov discovered the atmosphere of Venus. In the 18th century, while observing Venus transit across the Sun's disk, Mikhail Lomonosov noticed a glowing halo around the planet. He deduced that this was not an optical illusion, but evidence of an atmosphere. This discovery made him the first person to prove that another planet has its own envelope. For modern astronomers, this seems obvious, but at the time it was revolutionary. Lomonosov demonstrated that scientific intuition and careful observation can reveal what is invisible to others. In English, a group of ladybugs is called loveliness, which can be translated as grace or charm. This is perhaps one of the most fitting names for these creatures. Imagine a meadow where dozens of bright red bugs are crawling through the grass. The word herd would sound harsh, while loveliness perfectly captures the mood. Language often reflects people's attitudes toward nature, and in this case, it is incredibly warm. It feels as though the ladybugs themselves have earned the title of the cutest beings in the insect world. Interestingly, even the mightiest trees have a limit to their growth. It turns out that no tree on the planet can exceed a height of about 130 meters. The reason lies in physics. Water cannot rise up the trunk beyond a certain level. It's like trying to drink through a straw the length of a skyscraper. At some point, the liquid simply stops. This is why even the majestic sequoias, the tallest trees in the world, reach this invisible threshold. We look up at them in awe of their grandeur, but they too are subject to the strict laws of nature that impose a limit where it seems there could be infinity. It may seem surprising, but trousers, once considered a symbol of savagery, were ridiculed by the ancient Greeks, who mocked the Persians for wearing them, calling them bags. For the Greeks and Romans, the tunic was the attire of a civilized person. Trousers were seen as coarse and barbaric clothing until the Romans, expanding northward, encountered the Celts and adopted this practical wardrobe item. It's amusing to think that today it's hard to imagine our world without trousers, while they were once a sign of barbarism. The history of fashion knows how to take incredible turns. Imagine a person who would have to eat 100 pizzas a day to survive. Tiny hummingbirds expend so much energy that they eat almost every 15 minutes. Their metabolism is so accelerated that if a human had the same, they would need to consume about 150,000 calories a day. That's roughly equivalent to eating 100 large pizzas daily. Without food, a hummingbird can die in just a few hours, so they live in a constant race for fuel. Their tiny hearts beat at an incredible rate, and their bodies operate at full capacity. These birds are like the sports cars of the natural world. Robert Howard, the author of Conan and the Barbarian, was a friend and ally of H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos, was a close friend of Robert Howard, the legendary creator of Conan. They corresponded, discussed their works, and inspired each other. When Howard took his own life at the age of 30, Lovecraft was deeply shaken and soon succumbed to illness and depression. Their friendship became a link between Lovecraft's dark cosmic horror and Howard's heroic fantasy. Thus, two completely different genres, horror and epic adventure, somehow emerged from a single, creative friendship. The oldest joke was found on a clay tablet in Mesopotamia and dates back to around 1900 BC. And funny enough, it's a joke about gas. It says, "Never has it happened that a woman did not fart in front of her husband." Humour, it turns out, is timeless. 4,000 years have passed and the themes haven't changed. It's amusing that scholars, while deciphering the ancient text, discovered not only laws and myths, but also this little everyday joke. It seems people have always enjoyed joking about the simple and relatable. The medieval chivalric order still exists and even issues its own passports. The sovereign military order of Malta, founded during the Crusades, is recognised by the international community as a sovereign entity, despite not having its own territory. The order has its own passports, stamps, and even currency, the Maltese Scudo. It boasts tens of thousands of knights, volunteers and doctors working around the globe. Many find it surprising that this medieval institution continues to thrive in modern times, preserving not only its traditions, but also real legal privileges. It stands as one of the few examples where the past and present coexist side by side. Imagine Venice at night when tourists disperse to their hotels and the city falls silent. You walk across an ancient stone bridge and suddenly it emits astonishing sounds, like a soft melody. This is due to its unique design. In certain spots, plates are installed that begin to vibrate with each step. The effect of resonance transforms an ordinary bridge into a musical instrument. Tourists unwittingly become musicians themselves. These sounds seem to transport you to the past, to an era when Venice was a hub of trade and art. The city still knows how to amaze. Here, even the stones converse and sing if you listen closely enough. In the Finnish city of Tampere, charming robots have been created for cleaning parks. They are designed like little hedgehogs, with wheels instead of paws and sensors instead of noses. These devices find and collect trash, leaving clean pathways behind. It looks as if amusing mechanical creatures are scurrying across the lawn. People enjoy watching them, turning cleanup into a show. The hedgehog robots not only maintain order, but also remind everyone that ecology can be friendly and even fun. The Finns have once again demonstrated that technology can not only assist, but also make life more pleasant and warm. Once, oranges were not orange at all. Their ancestors, grown in Southeast Asia, had green skin. Even today, in tropical regions, oranges often remain green, although inside they are fully ripe and sweet. Only in cooler countries does the skin lose chlorophyll and turn the familiar orange colour. So, orange is more of a climatic coincidence. Imagine a supermarket where all the oranges are green. People would think they are unripe. In reality, that's how they looked in their true historical form. It sounds incredible, but there was a cartel that limited the lifespan of light bulbs. In the 1920s, the largest light manufacturers formed the Phoebus cartel. They agreed that bulbs should not last longer than 1,000 hours. If a company produced a more durable product, it was fine. This artificially maintained demand. People kept buying new bulbs over and over again. Meanwhile, it's known that bulbs can last for decades. A lamp in a California fire station has been shining for over 100 years. This example became a symbol of planned obsolescence and showed that businesses can even control the light in our homes. The myxomatosis virus nearly wiped out rabbits in Europe within a few years. French microbiologist Armand Delille tried to control the rabbit population on his estate by infecting them with the myxomatosis virus. However, the disease spiraled out of control. In just a few years, the virus spread across Europe and killed 98% of the rabbits. The culprit was fined, but the damage was done. An entire species was on the brink of extinction. Fortunately, rabbits proved to be resilient and gradually recovered their numbers. This case became one of the most striking examples of how human intervention can lead to ecological disaster. There is a specific disorder called dyscalculia, a kind of dyslexia for numbers. People with this condition struggle even with the simplest tasks. They find it hard to understand which number is larger, 6 or 7, or to count change in a store. Their ability to perceive time, navigate calculations, and remember numbers is often affected. Approximately 7.5% of people worldwide live with this condition. For them, math is not just a difficult subject, but an almost incomprehensible language. Interestingly, a person may be talented in music or art, yet numbers will remain a mystery to them. Did you know that the Pentagon cannot account for half of its budget? The US Department of Defense is regularly audited, and each time it turns out that a huge portion of its expenses remains unverified. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. The reasons include the complexity of the system, bureaucracy, and sometimes plain negligence. But for taxpayers, it sounds absurd. The world's largest military spends money, but can't accurately explain where it goes. This fact has become a source of numerous conspiracy theories and distrust in the government. In any case, it's a striking example of how even a massive organisation can get lost in its own accounts. The Incas in South America built suspension bridges made of grass and vines 2,000 years ago. These woven structures connected the banks of mountain rivers and served as real roads between villages. Every year, the residents of nearby villages would reweave the ropes to ensure the bridge remained strong. Imagine, dozens of people gather, weaving ropes from grass and renewing an entire bridge as one big ritual. Despite the simplicity of the materials, these bridges could support not only people, but also caravans with cargo. This is an amazing example of how engineering can emerge directly from nature. Fleas are true acrobats of the insect world. They can jump up to 350 times their body length. For comparison, if a human had such an ability, they could leap over a skyscraper or easily reach the top shelf in a library without a ladder. The secret of fleas lies in a special protein called resilin, which acts like a spring. They store energy and release it instantly, like miniature catapults. This allows them to escape danger and find new hosts. Their small size makes them almost invisible, but they possess enough strength to make any athlete envious. Glass seems like something familiar to us. Windows, bottles, phone screens. But if you think about it, it's a true marvel of nature and human ingenuity. It all starts with ordinary sand, which is heated to temperatures over 1,400 degrees. It melts and transforms into a transparent material. This process has been known since the time of ancient Egypt, and since then it has hardly changed, only become more precise. Consider how amazing it is. What crunches under our feet on the beach can, after being subjected to fire, become a transparent window through which we view the world. Ordinary sand has the power to reshape civilization. In Slovenia, archaeologists discovered a wooden wheel that is about 5,000 years old. It was made from ash and secured with oak wedges. For its time, it was a true engineering marvel, a component that allowed people to transport heavy loads and build new roads. Imagine an ancient craftsman who first thought to turn a log into a circle and fit it onto an axle. From that moment, an entire era began. The wheel became a symbol of progress, and although it looks somewhat crude, it is from such finds that the history of all modern machines and trains began. The term Black Panther sounds mysterious, as if it refers to a distinct species. In reality, it simply describes the coloration of leopards or jaguars. Some individuals exhibit melanism, an excess of dark pigment. Their fur becomes almost black, with spots only visible in sunlight. These animals make up about 11% of all leopards. In the jungle they move like shadows, blending into the darkness. This rare coloration has turned them into legends and heroes of myths. So, a panther isn't a new species, it's just a stylish, same leopard, but in a black suit. Nature sometimes plays with fashion too. In Malin, skyscrapers have been built that resemble giant flower beds. Thousands of trees and shrubs have been planted on balconies and facades. This is the Vertical Forest Project, buildings that not only provide housing, but also purify the air, create shade, and reduce noise. In a city filled with cars and concrete, they have become green oases. The residents of these homes literally live among the treetops, not in a country house, but in a high-rise, beautiful and beneficial at the same time. Architects have demonstrated that nature and the metropolis can be allies, not enemies, if trees are given space even on the 30th floor. Beneath the massive feet of elephants lies an intriguing secret. They have unique toes. These special bony structures help distribute their weight and allow the animals to move almost silently. Thanks to them, an elephant walks softly despite its tons of mass. They sense the ground like a cat's pads and provide stability even on unstable surfaces. This is why these giants can calmly tread on sand, clay, or even marshy land. Their gait is remarkably light, and if you close your eyes, you might not even notice a whole elephant sneaking up on you. Nature has once again demonstrated its engineering genius. The paradox is that the first multicellular organisms went extinct almost immediately. 2 billion years ago, the Earth's atmosphere temporarily had more oxygen. This is when the first multicellular beings appeared. It seemed like life had taken a huge step forward. However, after a while, the oxygen levels dropped again, and these pioneers disappeared without leaving any descendants. Scientists refer to them as the Franzvillian biota because their remains were found in Africa. It turns out that nature's first trial run failed. Yet without it, we might not exist. Every failure in evolution paved the way for new attempts. In the mountainous regions of India, people have found a way to collect water directly from the air. They stretch large nets that capture droplets of mist. The moisture drips into reservoirs, providing villagers with a source of water even during dry spells. This simple yet ingenious solution saves thousands of lives. Imagine being able to catch a cloud in a net and turn it into drinking water. For the mountain dwellers, this is not a fantasy, but a reality. This method demonstrates how ingenuity helps people survive in the toughest conditions. Ocean giants, sperm whales, are capable of communicating over thousands of kilometres. These ocean behemoths use powerful vibrations for communication that travel through water over vast distances. Scientists suggest that one sperm whale can call another located on the other side of the ocean. However, these same vibrations can be dangerous for humans. Getting too close can lead to paralysis or even death. Thus, sperm whales have their own underwater telephone network that operates far more efficiently than many of our technologies. Their language has not yet been fully deciphered, but it is already clear that it is one of the most complex systems in the animal kingdom. Today, the Earth's population has surpassed 8 billion people. Imagine, that's 8 billion stories, voices, smiles, and destinies. For comparison, in just the last 100 years, we've quadrupled in number. Once, only a few million people lived on the planet, and now that many can reside in a single, large city. This figure prompts us to think about the future. Will resources be sufficient? Will we learn to care for the planet? Yet at the same time, 8 billion represents 8 billion opportunities, ideas, and discoveries that could change the world. The word laser seems familiar and simple, but in reality, it's an acronym. It stands for Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation. It sounds complicated, but the essence is straightforward. The technology allows energy to be directed into a powerful beam. Lasers are now used in medicine, science, industry, and even in the entertainment industry. It's amusing that a word we say every day hides a whole technical definition within it. It's as if a long name is concealed behind a short sign, and the term itself has become a symbol of progress, turning into part of everyday speech. Octopuses are true inventors of the underwater world. Scientists have observed they can use coconut shells as shelters. They pick up suitable halves, drag them along the ocean floor, and then assemble them like a shield when they need to hide. It looks as if the octopus has its own backpack or portable tent. For an animal without bones or a shell, this is a brilliant solution. It creates its own armour. Octopuses are already known for their high intelligence, But using objects is a level of ingenuity akin to humans. So it turns out that a little MacGyver with 8 arms lives on the ocean floor. On the island of St. Helena lives a tortoise named Jonathan, who is around 190 years old. He was born in the 19th century and has witnessed changes in eras, wars and technologies. Imagine, when Jonathan was young, there was no electricity in every home, and now people are launching satellites into space. Yet the tortoise continues to peacefully graze on grass and bask in the sun. His life is like a living chronicle of history. People come from all over the world just to catch a glimpse of this time machine with a shell. When the Apollo astronauts landed on the moon, they left not only footprints, but also special markings. These were lines and arrows that helped them navigate in the unfamiliar environment. There are no familiar horizons or road signs on the moon, making it easy to get lost. Therefore, scientists devised lunar markings in advance so that the astronauts would know where to go and how to return to the module. These simple lines became an important part of mission safety. It's amusing to think that on the moon, where there are no cars or traffic jams, there is still its own road system. The human tendency to impose order even worked on another celestial body. Fawns are born with a unique ability that helps them survive in the wild. They have no scent at all. For predators like wolves or bears, sniffing around becomes pointless. The young one remains invisible. The mother leaves her baby in the grass and walks away, returning only for feeding to avoid attracting attention from enemies. This clever tactic allows tiny fawns to stay unnoticed and have a chance to grow up peacefully. It's a remarkable example of how nature protects the most vulnerable. While we admire their spotted backs, they are masters of camouflage, with their main defense being silence and invisibility. The oldest university in the world was established in the 9th century in Morocco. It was founded by a woman, Fatima al-Fihri. She invested her inheritance in the construction of a mosque and an educational centre, which became a place of knowledge for thousands of students. It's remarkable that at a time when women had very few rights, one of them created an institution that has survived for centuries. Today, Al-Qarawiyyin University is still operational and is considered the oldest in the world. Fatima's story reminds us that great changes often come from those we least expect. What if I told you that the eyes of mantis shrimp are more complex than human eyes? These tiny predators have unique vision. Each eye has 3 pupils and up to 16 types of light-sensitive cells. In comparison, humans have only 3. Mantis shrimp can see ultraviolet, infrared, and even polarized light. Their vision is so extraordinary that it helps scientists develop new camera and sensor technologies. It turns out that within the tiny body of this crustacean lies a biological supercosmos that surpasses the capabilities of our eyes and even the best cameras. A regular apple is made up of 90% water. That's why it's so juicy and refreshing. When you bite into an apple, it's like drinking a mini glass of pure water with vitamins. It's no wonder apples are a popular snack for travel. They're light, nutritious, and quench your thirst. Interestingly, thanks to their high water content, apples can be stored for a long time without losing freshness. They are like a natural bottle of drink, just in the form of a fruit, and perhaps one of the most convenient snacks created by nature. Beneath the ice of Antarctica lie entire mountain ranges comparable to the Alps. The Gumburtsev Mountains represent a true hidden world. Their size rivals that of the Alps, but they remain unseen, covered by a layer of ice more than 3 kilometers thick. These mountains formed around 100 million years ago, yet thanks to their icy armour, they have remained almost in their pristine state. There may be valleys, rivers, and even subglacial lakes, as if frozen in time. Scientists study them only through radar and satellites. Thus, right beneath the feet of the polar explorers lies a vast world about which we know almost nothing. Today, the computer mouse is a familiar accessory, lightweight and made of plastic. However, the first mouse, created in 1964 by engineer Douglas Engelbart, was made of wood. Inside, there were metal wheels that tracked movement across the table. The device looked strange and bulky, but it marked the beginning of a new era. It's hard to believe that from such a simple wooden box, modern touchpads and wireless gadgets emerged. This story serves as a reminder. Great technologies often arise from very humble beginnings, and sometimes all it takes is one wooden experiment to change the world. Once in the Chesapeake Bay, oysters created real, living islands. In the 19th century, there were so many oysters in the Chesapeake Bay that they literally covered the surface of the water. Huge clusters of mollusks even obstructed ships from passing. But as usual, humans intervened. In just 100 years, they nearly wiped out these colossal stocks. By 2011, the oyster population had declined by 99.7%. From a rich natural carpet, only tiny fragments remained, a stark reminder that nature is not infinite. Turtles are true long livers of the planet. They appeared over 200 million years ago, surviving dinosaurs, ice ages, and numerous catastrophes. Their shell is not just armour, but a part of their skeleton that protects them from enemies and aids in survival. Some species can live up to 150 years, and sea turtles are capable of crossing oceans, travelling thousands of kilometres in search of food. Think about it. Long before the first humans appeared, these slow creatures were already calmly walking the earth. Today, when we encounter a turtle, we are looking at a living relic, a piece of the ancient world that has managed to reach us almost in its original form. It may seem that sports should unite people, but one day a football field became the spark for war. It sounds absurd, but in 1969, football matches were the last straw in the conflict between Honduras and El Salvador. The teams faced off on the field, but underlying their game were much sharper issues: overpopulation, land disputes, and social tension. The matches added fuel to the fire, leading to a war that would later be called the Football War. It lasted only a few days, but claimed thousands of lives. The irony is that a sport meant for unity and joy unexpectedly became the trigger for a real tragedy. What a surprise! It turns out that intelligent people are the ones who remember their dreams most often. Researchers have noticed a pattern. Individuals with high intelligence and rich imagination tend to recall their dreams and can recount them in detail. This is linked to brain activity during the rapid eye movement, REM phase of sleep. Of course, this doesn't mean that someone who forgets their dreams is unintelligent, but the connection is intriguing. Perhaps a developed imagination helps retain nighttime images. It seems that dreams serve as a kind of workout for the brain, and those inclined toward creativity receive a bonus in the form of vivid memories. Giant whales are not just marine giants, but also true sanitizers of the climate. When a whale dies, its massive body sinks to the ocean floor, taking with it tons of carbon. This is roughly equivalent to the emissions produced by 100 cars over their lifetime. So whales help clean the atmosphere simply by living their lives. Scientists refer to them as carbon graveyards, but it doesn't sound sad at all. Each whale makes the world a cleaner place. It's amusing that the largest creature on the planet, weighing hundreds of tons, works in harmony with nature to ensure we breathe fresh air. The US Supreme Court may seem like a strict and serious place, but few know that there's a basketball court on its roof. It's called the highest court in the land. Employees and even justices play there to relieve stress after sessions. Imagine this. Just moments ago, someone was making a decision that could change the fate of an entire country, and an hour later, they're shooting hoops. This small detail serves as a reminder that even the most influential people are still human. needing rest and joy. The majestic building with its columns conceals an ordinary game above, a symbol that everyone needs a balance between work and life. Want to know the secret of sleep? It turns out that the amount of sleep needed varies by age. Babies require about 10 to 11 hours. Teenagers need 9 to 10. Adults get by with 7 to 8, and older adults may manage with just 6. Our bodies seem to adjust their internal clocks throughout life. Imagine a child is fussy without sleep. A teenager sleeps in until noon. An adult enjoys rare weekends with long sleep. And an elderly person rises cheerfully at dawn. Sleep is universal fuel for the brain, but each age group has its own refueling norm. Want to hear one of the strangest reasons for toxicity? Bright poison dart frogs are deadly. Their skin secretes a toxin that can kill a human. But here's the surprising part: they aren't toxic on their own. In captivity, where they are fed a regular diet, their skin becomes safe. It turns out the secret lies in their diet. In the wild, they eat specific ants and insects that contain toxic substances. So the poison is a result of their nutrition. Nature seems to show that even a small frog can become a weapon if it has the right ingredients on its menu. Sound can not only be heard, but also seen. This is demonstrated using so-called Chladni figures. A metal plate is sprinkled with sand and then vibrated using a bow or speaker. The grains of sand arrange themselves into intricate patterns: stars, circles, lines. Each frequency creates its own drawing. It's as if sound paints a picture right before your eyes. Interestingly, this experiment can even be replicated at home with simple materials. So, music is not just something you hear, but also something you can see if you know the clever trick. Pigs are much smarter than people tend to think. They can solve simple puzzles, deceive others for treats, and even recognize themselves in mirrors. In experiments, pigs completed tasks faster than dogs, and they easily learn tricks. Imagine a pig that not only knows where the tasty apple is, but also distracts its competitor to reach the food first. Scientists consider them to be among the most intelligent animals on the farm. It turns out that behind the image of a simple country dweller lies a true strategist and psychologist. Strange but true, there is a philosophy that rejects logic. It's called anti-intellectualism. Its essence is that intuition and action are more important than reasoning. Proponents believe that conclusions are too slow and unreliable, while traditions and experience are more valuable than any arguments. Essentially, it's a philosophy of do rather than think. This approach may seem wild to a rational person, but it has genuinely existed and found followers. Throughout history, there have always been those who trusted their hearts more than their minds. Thus, even in philosophy, there are teachings that consciously reject the very foundation of philosophy: reasoning. If you take a close look at Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting, you'll notice something strange. The Mona Lisa has no eyebrows. Scholars debate whether the artist intended it that way or if the eyebrows have faded over time, but this small detail makes her smile even more enigmatic. We are used to reading emotions through facial expressions, and the absence of familiar features is disorienting. It's like having a conversation with someone, but part of their words suddenly disappears. Each viewer fills in the gaps in their own way. Perhaps that's why the smile of the Gioconda is so captivating. It communicates with us through the silence of missing details. The carnivorous plant Venus flytrap can literally count. When an insect touches its sensitive hairs, the trap doesn't close immediately. The plant waits for a second touch to ensure it's not just a random raindrop or a speck of dust. If the touch is repeated, the lobes snap shut. Scientists have found that the flytrap keeps an internal count, and a specific number of stimuli is also needed for digestion This means the plant has a primitive memory and a decision-making system. This makes it resemble a creature with a brain, even though it doesn't have one. The number of possible combinations in chess exceeds the number of atoms in the entire universe. Each new move opens up virtually infinite variations in the game. This is why no two games are ever exactly the same. Imagine playing a match with a friend, and theoretically, you create a unique variation that has never existed before. This transforms chess from just a game into a true art of strategy and imagination. It's no wonder they call it the royal game. Within those black and white squares lies a whole universe of possibilities. When you look at a chicken, it's hard to believe that you're staring at a distant relative of the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. But that's what science claims. Bird DNA shares common traits with ancient predators. Scientists even refer to the chicken as a living reminder of dinosaurs. It turns out that millions of years ago, terrifying giants ruled the planet, and today their descendants run around backyards and lay eggs. It's amusing how nature has changed the role of these creatures, from kings to simple inhabitants of rural homesteads. And now, when you see a chicken, you might think, here it is, a small shadow of the great T-Rex, stepping into modernity. In the 1990s, artists Vitaly Komar and Alexander Melamede, along with composer Dave Soldier, set out to create the most terrible song in history. They aimed to produce a piece that would be as unbearable to listen to as possible. They gathered all the musical elements that people found annoying: a children's choir, operatic rap, banjos, synthesizers, and absurd lyrics about hypermarkets and Coca-Cola. The result was a 20-minute track that is truly difficult to listen to all the way through. The experiment proved that art has not only peaks of beauty, but also depths of discord, and there is a certain charm in that as well. The sunset on Mars is a true wonder. Unlike Earth, where the sky is painted in shades of red and orange, on Mars, the sun sets in a blue glow. This is due to the planet's thin atmosphere, which scatters light differently than ours. As a result, the daytime sky appears pale yellow, and at sunset, the horizon ignites with a stunning blue light. Astronauts who find themselves there will witness a truly alien landscape. Imagine standing on the cold Martian plains, gazing up at a foreign yet mesmerizing sky. It's like a painting by an artist who decided to swap the usual colors. Chinese woman Shi Kuping became famous for not cutting her hair for over 40 years. She started growing it at the age of 13 and reached a length of 5.62 metres. That's almost 18 feet. Just imagine how much time it takes to care for such a braid. Brushing alone takes a couple of hours, and washing is a whole ritual. Sometimes she braids her hair or wraps it around herself to make it easier to move. Her record is listed in the Guinness Book of Records, and so far no one has broken it. It's reminiscent of the tale of Rapunzel, but in real life, where determination and patience become a true legend. In Germany, in the town of Oberstdorf, a unique lift has been built that moves diagonally rather than vertically. It takes tourists up the mountainside at a 45-degree angle, combining features of both a funicular and a lift. Imagine stepping into the cabin, the doors closing, and instead of the usual vertical movement, you start gliding as if on a slope. For those who love unusual experiences, it's a true adventure. Moreover, the view from the cabin is breathtaking. Mountains, forests, and sky seem to unfold before your eyes. This mode of transport demonstrates that engineering can be both practical and fun. Strange but true, products are intentionally made to be short-lived. This practice is known as planned obsolescence. Manufacturers incorporate parts that break down after a few years, or stop producing spare parts to force people to buy new items. This applies to phones, printers, light bulbs, and even clothing. For companies, it's a way to earn more, while for consumers, it creates a constant race for upgrades. The result is a paradox. Technology advances, yet items increasingly last less than they could. This is not a coincidence, but a carefully crafted strategy. The International Space Station is not just a laboratory in orbit, it is the most expensive man-made object ever created. Its construction and operation have cost around $150 billion. For comparison, that's nearly 50 times the cost of the Eiffel Tower. The station has become a symbol of cooperation among different countries, with Americans, Russians, Japanese, and Europeans working together on board. Experiments are conducted there that cannot be performed on Earth. And while the amount may seem astronomical, the results are worth it. The ISS has opened the doors to life beyond our planet and represents a step toward future flights to other worlds. In India, a man spent 22 years in court over an overpayment of 20 rupees. Tungnath Chaturvedi, an Indian resident, bought a train ticket and the cashier made a mistake in the calculations. The overpayment was just 20 rupees, less than half a dollar. But the principle turned out to be more valuable. Chaturvedi filed a lawsuit and sought justice for a full 22 years, attending hundreds of hearings. In the end, he won. The railways were ordered to refund the overpayment and pay compensation with interest. This story illustrates that sometimes it's not about the money, but about the determination of a person willing to go to great lengths for justice, even for something seemingly trivial. It sounds incredible, but the diamond market is artificially restricted. For decades, De Beers has been buying up diamonds and keeping them in stock to create scarcity. In reality, there are enough of these stones in the world, but due to supply control, they have become a symbol of luxury and a must-have for engagements. The phrase, "diamonds are forever," was also created by advertising. Thus, the value of diamonds is not just about their beauty, but also a carefully constructed illusion. Millions of people believe that diamonds are rare and unique, even though their price is largely the result of clever marketing strategies. When you hear the word bison, it sounds like a joke. But no, bison are a real hybrid of cattle and buffalo. These animals combine the strength and endurance of wild bison with the hardiness of domestic cows. They were specifically bred in the US to create a robust and resilient livestock capable of thriving in harsh conditions. As a result, bison have become true stars of agriculture. They adapt well and produce delicious meat. Imagine encountering a creature in the field that looks both familiar and exotic, as if two worlds have merged into one body. Nature and humans sometimes create unusual alliances, and bison are a striking example of how an experiment can lead to an extraordinary animal. What a surprise! The lines on a basketball were not designed for aesthetics. These stripes help players grip the ball firmly and better control its movement. Try playing with an old smooth ball and you'll immediately notice the difference. It slips out of your hands and shots become inaccurate. The lines provide traction for the fingers and allow for quick changes in the ball's direction. For spectators, it's just a familiar design element, but for players, it's an unnoticed yet vital tool. It turns out that the outcome of an entire game can depend on a few stripes applied to the orange surface. Some species of turtles can breathe through their cloaca. It sounds funny, but it's actually an important survival adaptation. During cold weather, they can be under ice where there's almost no oxygen. That's when special cavities in the cloaca come into play, allowing them to absorb oxygen from the water. It's a sort of backup breathing. The turtle seems to say, well, if my nose and mouth aren't working, I have an alternative. This mechanism enables them to stay underwater for hours and even hibernate without coming up for air. If you decide to walk the Great Wall of China from start to finish, prepare for a marathon lasting almost a year and a half. The total length of the wall is over 20,000 kilometres. Even if you walk 30 kilometres a day without stopping, it would still take about 18 months. Imagine, every day brings new views, mountains, steppes, villages, all accompanied by ancient stone battlements. It's like walking along the longest historical ribbon, where each tower holds its own story. Few can undertake such a journey, but the thought that it's possible is inspiring. Sometimes reality sounds like fantasy. There is a lamp that has been burning for over 100 years. In the fire station of Livermore, California, a light bulb that was lit in 1901 is still shining. It has outlasted generations, wars, and technological changes, yet it continues to glow. Scientists have examined it and confirmed its authenticity. The reason lies in its carbon filament, which operates at a very low power. Interestingly, back then, lamps were made to last for centuries, while today they barely last a couple of years. This little lamp has become a symbol of a time when things were created not for profit, but for durability. Who would have thought that in London, where rain is more common than sunshine, there's a real underground beach? In an old subway tunnel, an unusual space has been created: sand, palm trees and lighting that mimics sunset. Parties and concerts take place there, and stepping inside feels like entering a parallel reality. Above you, trains rumble by, while people sip cocktails on the shore of an underground sea. This place is like a little secret of the city. No one expects to find a beach beneath the asphalt of a metropolis. The irony is that for Londoners, it's easier to dive into the tunnel than to travel to the sea. Some bridges are capable of producing sounds when people walk on them. For example, in London, there is the Millennium Bridge, which features special plates that create a voice effect. The sounds resemble whispers or soft footsteps, and at night, the bridge transforms into an almost mystical place. Tourists love this effect. As they stroll, they become part of a unique concert. There's a feeling that the city itself has a voice, which it reveals only to attentive listeners. These bridges are an example of how architecture can be not only functional, but also emotional, turning an ordinary crossing over a river into a memorable experience. In Armenia, a chocolate bar weighing over 4 tons was once created. It measured 5.5 meters long and nearly 3 meters wide. Making it took 10 days and a huge amount of cocoa beans. Imagine, an entire stadium of children could have feasted on this chocolate field. When the chocolate was finally unveiled at the celebration, it wasn't placed in a museum. It was simply broken apart and shared with the people. There's something touching about this. The largest sweet symbol in history became a communal treat. It's as if the very idea of chocolate, sharing joy, materialized in this record-breaking bar. Elephants can listen to the earth with their feet. Their pads pick up low-frequency vibrations, steps of other elephants, thunderstorms, or even the movement of predators miles away. The signal travels through their bones to the brain, allowing the animal to understand what's happening around it. It's like having a built-in seismograph. Because of this, elephants can communicate with each other over vast distances, as if using a secret channel. Imagine walking barefoot and suddenly sensing that someone familiar is stomping far away. Remarkably, for elephants, their ears are not the only hearing organs. You won't believe it, but there is a whale known as the loneliest in the world. Scientists discovered a whale nicknamed the 52 Hertz whale. It sings at a frequency different from all other whales, and no one responds to it. Its call goes unheard or misunderstood. This whale seems to sing an eternal song in solitude. Its story has become a metaphor for human isolation and loneliness. Millions of people around the planet empathize with it, seeing their own feelings reflected in its plight. Sometimes even an animal becomes a symbol of what it means to be misunderstood in a vast world. The phrase, "the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," is known for containing every letter of the English alphabet. Such sentences are called pangrams. They are used to test fonts, practice typing, or evaluate keyboards. However, this is not a concept from the computer age. Calligraphers in ancient times also created pongrams to refine their handwriting. Imagine having to come up with a phrase that includes all the letters while still sounding meaningful. It's like a verbal puzzle that combines language and play. Sometimes large numbers seem empty and abstract. But here's an interesting example. 1 billion seconds is about 32 years. That's a span of time comparable to a whole human life from birth to maturity. Imagine a baby being born, taking its first steps, going to school, graduating from university. And all of this fits into 1 billion seconds. The word billion sounds like an unimaginably large amount, but in reality, it's just one segment of a human biography. This simple calculation helps us understand how valuable each day is. After all, time doesn't flow in billions, but in small pieces, and it all depends on how we choose to live them. Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system. Its diameter is only about 5,000 kilometres, which is less than half of Earth's. Imagine a sphere the size of Africa. That's roughly what it is. Yet Mercury is also the fastest. It orbits the Sun in just 88 Earth days. While we celebrate one new year, Mercury manages to celebrate 4. On its surface, there's hellish heat during the day and icy cold at night. It turns out to be a planet of contrasts, small, fast and very harsh, like a cosmic sprinter living in an extreme rhythm. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. You can sue for hundreds of thousands over coffee. In 1994, American Stella Liebeck burned herself with hot coffee from McDonald's. The drink was so overheated that she suffered serious burns and underwent skin graft surgeries. The court found the chain guilty. It turned out the company knowingly served coffee at a temperature that was hazardous to health. Ultimately, Liebeck was awarded $640,000 in damages. This case became a symbol of American lawsuits, but it actually highlighted how even a familiar cup of coffee can turn into a source of trouble. Butterflies have taste receptors located right on their legs. When they land on a flower, they taste it with their feet. This helps them determine whether the plant is suitable for feeding or laying eggs. For us, taste involves our tongue and lips, while for butterflies, it's a light touch of their legs. So every landing is like a tasting session for them. It's amusing to think that if humans had the same ability, we would taste soup just by touching our fingers to the bowl. But for butterflies, it works perfectly. In English, there is a word, strengths, and it is special. It is the longest word with just one vowel. Despite its simplicity, it symbolizes strength, resilience, and endurance. It's amusing that such a word is unique in its structure. It contains 8 consonants in a row, yet it sounds easy and familiar. This little linguistic record shows that even in words, we can find our own championships. Language, like nature, holds its secrets and wonders, and sometimes they are hidden in the most ordinary things. In a word we use almost every day. Even carousels in different countries spin in different directions. In the UK, carousels traditionally rotate clockwise, while in the US and continental Europe, they turn counterclockwise. This difference stems from the fact that in the past, carousel figures were designed for easier mounting from the left side. The British deemed one direction correct, while those across the ocean chose another. The result is a curious phenomenon. The same amusement moves in opposite directions in different parts of the world. It may seem like a minor detail, but it highlights how culture influences even entertainment. Have you ever wondered what dinosaurs actually sounded like? In the famous Jurassic Park, the monsters sound so terrifying that it sends chills down your spine. But the sound designers didn't find recordings of prehistoric reptiles. No one has ever heard them. Instead, they combined the most unexpected sounds, like the moans of mating turtles. These became the foundation for the fearsome roars on screen. It's amusing to imagine viewers holding their breath, believing in the terrifying roar of the T-Rex, while in the studio, sound engineers are stifling laughter, knowing that the king of the lizards sounds suspiciously romantic. A story that sounds like a paradox. A fashion brand burns its own bags. Louis Vuitton and other luxury brands destroy unsold goods. They do this to prevent items from going on sale and devaluing the brand. Bags, clothing and accessories worth millions of dollars are burned or disposed of each year. It turns out that to maintain the company's image, they are willing to destroy what for many people symbolises wealth. This is shocking, but in the fashion world, the logic is different. It's better to burn thousands of bags than to let them sell for less. It's interesting to consider which invention has become the most widespread in history. It's the transistor. Today, they are produced in the trillions, with hundreds of millions of transistors for every person on Earth, embedded in computers, phones, and household appliances. Electronics wouldn't function without them. Transistors are so small that we often overlook them, yet they are the building blocks of the digital world. If humanity were imagined as a city, transistors would be the bricks that make up every building, unseen, tiny, but utterly indispensable. Today, we send each other emojis, hearts and pizza in chats, as if they've always existed. But the first emojis appeared in Japan in the late 90s. There were only 176 of them, and they looked very simple. A sun, a phone, a smiling face. Back then, it seemed trivial, but now emojis have turned into a real language understood all over the world. It's amusing that the idea came from a Japanese mobile company. They just wanted to make communication easier for their users. Now the entire world expresses emotions through these tiny images. You could say that without these little symbols, texting would be dull, like tea without sugar. There is a strange yet very real phobia called margyrophobia, or the fear of cooking. For those who suffer from it, the kitchen becomes a room of horrors. Pots and pans seem dangerous, and the very act of cooking triggers panic. It's not just a reluctance to stand by the stove, it's a deep-seated fear that can literally paralyse a person. Someone may thrive on ready-made meals, but the thought of preparing something themselves brings on anxiety. This phobia is rare, but it vividly illustrates the diversity of fears. Some people are afraid of spiders, others of heights, while some fear an ordinary pot. Ultimately, it serves as a reminder that everyone has their own vulnerabilities. Did you know that avocado can be deadly for animals? For humans, this fruit is beneficial. Vitamins, healthy fats, trendy toasts. But for birds and horses, avocado is toxic. A substance called persin in their bodies causes severe poisoning, sometimes with fatal outcomes. So what is a superfood for us is a poison for animals. This serves as a reminder that we can't measure everything by human standards. Even familiar foods can be dangerous if an organism isn't adapted to them. What is beneficial for one form of life can be harmful to another. Do you remember those annoying pop-up windows on the internet? The ones that took up half the screen and drove you crazy? It turns out their inventor publicly apologised for them later. In the 1990s, programmer Ethan Zuckerman came up with this method to separate ads from main content. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, but soon ads flooded the web, turning surfing into a nightmare. Years later, Zuckerman admitted that his invention caused more harm than good. This is a great example of how even good intentions can lead to unpleasant outcomes. And now, when we close yet another pop-up window, we can remember that its creator regrets it. Sometimes science plays with coincidences. The same equation is discovered by two different scientists. The Lorentz equation got its name for a reason. It was derived independently by two researchers. the Danish scientist Ludwig Lorenz and the Dutch scientist Hendrik Lorentz. The difference was nearly 10 years, and they were unaware of each other's work. In the end, both published almost the same discovery. Science sometimes has such quirks. People in different countries working on similar problems arrive at the same results. This shows that discoveries are not random. They hang in the air, waiting to be noticed. Strangely enough, the word robot was not coined by a scientist, but by a writer. Czech playwright Karel Čapek introduced the term in his play R.U.R. Initially, he wanted to call artificial beings laboras, derived from the Latin word for work, but his artist brother suggested the shorter and catchier robot from the Czech word for work. Thus, literature gifted science a term that has now become part of everyday life. It's amusing that the technology changing the world began with a fantastical play and a chance word choice in a conversation between two brothers. In Rome, a pizza over 40 meters in diameter was once baked. It was named Ottavia, in honor of the Roman emperor. The weight of this culinary monster exceeded 23 tons. Special ovens and a team of pizzaiolos worked for several days to prepare it. Imagine a square where instead of asphalt, there's a giant crust topped with tomato sauce and cheese. This pizza could feed an entire city. Interestingly, it was completely gluten-free, ensuring that the record not only amazed, but also catered to those with dietary restrictions. A true gastronomic spectacle for all of Italy. Strangely, female tarantulas live much longer than males, up to 40 years. While males have a short lifespan after reaching maturity, females can survive for several decades. Moreover, they can go without food for up to 2 years if they have access to water. This resilience makes them some of the most unusual spiders. For many, tarantulas symbolize fear, but in reality, they are surprisingly patient and enduring creatures. Their lives are slow, almost stretched out in time. And if spiders know how to wait, female tarantulas are true champions of this art. Dubai loves to impress with architectural wonders, and one of the ideas is skyscrapers that rotate around their axis. Imagine a building where each floor can slowly turn, offering residents a new view. The sea in the morning, the desert in the evening, and the city lights at night. This technology requires complex solutions, but it transforms the building into a living mechanism. Additionally, the rotation helps evenly distribute sunlight throughout the building and saves energy. This is not just a striking concept, but a step towards smart architecture, where comfort and beauty go hand in hand. Dubai once again proves that the future is already here. The story of the fire hydrant began with irony. Its first patent was burned. The tale is ironic. An invention created to fight fire itself vanished in flames. The exact design of the first hydrant remains unknown because the documents were destroyed in the fire. Scholars and historians can only speculate about who might have been the inventor. The hydrants we are familiar with on the streets only began to appear in large numbers years later. It creates a true paradox. We use this invention every day, yet the name of the first person who devised this way to save lives is forever lost to the fire. In the tropical forests of the Amazon, there grows a palm that locals call the walking palm. Its roots are structured in such a way that the tree can slowly move several meters in search of light. Old roots die off while new ones grow on the other side, making the palm appear to take a step. Over the years, it can walk several meters, changing its location. Of course, it's not a stroll in the usual sense, but the sight is impressive, a tree that moves to survive. Scientists debate the speed and scale of this process, but the fact itself is astonishing. Nature once again proves that even trees can seek their place in the sun, literally on the move. The word robot first appeared in a play by Czech writer Karel Čapek in 1920. In his play R.U.R., robots were artificial workers created for hard labour. Interestingly, the author derived the word from the Czech robota, meaning forced labour. Ironically, 100 years later, this word has become a symbol of future technologies. Today, robots clean homes, assemble cars, and even compose music. It turns out that it all started with the imagination of a writer who coined a word that changed the world. Regular sand can be transformed into transparent glass when heated to around 1,700 degrees. At such high temperatures, it melts and becomes a liquid mass, which solidifies into a strong and clear material upon cooling. Imagine how ordinary beach sand gives rise to windows, glasses, or stained glass in cathedrals. This was known to the ancient Egyptians, who were the first to create glass ornaments. It's remarkable that from the simplest grains we walk on barefoot, fragile beauty can be crafted that adorns homes and cities for centuries. In Pakistan, you can find a tree bound in real chains. Since 1898, there has been an arrested tree. The legend says that a British officer in a drunken state believed the tree was about to escape and ordered it to be chained. Absurd, of course, but the tree still stands with its iron shackles, now as a tourist attraction. People come to see this strange blend of nature and human imagination. It has become a true prisoner of conscience, only green and silent. Excessively bright light can harm the psyche just as much as noise. We tend to think of light as a sign of comfort and safety, but too much of it can lead to stress, anxiety, and even headaches. Overly lit offices or shopping centres can be just as draining as loud sounds. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as light pollution for the mind. Just as laundry can't dry in fog, the brain can't rest in a constant stream of bright light. Therefore, it's important to regulate lighting. Sometimes soft, dim light is more beneficial than glaring lamps that turn a room into a sterile laboratory. In Bhutan, almost half of the residents walk to work every day. The roads there don't always accommodate cars, and the mountainous terrain makes walking a natural part of life. Imagine, in the morning, people ascend trails with views of the Himalayas, and in the evening, they return the same way. For them, it's not about sports or fitness, it's just a regular means of getting around. Perhaps that's why Bhutanese are considered some of the happiest people. They connect work with nature every day, breathe fresh air and enjoy stunning landscapes. China has built the longest bridge in the world, the Danyang Kunshan Grand Viaduct. It stretches over 160 kilometres. This high-speed railway connects major cities. Imagine riding a train while an endless bridge stretches beneath you, disappearing into the horizon. The construction took just 4 years, with thousands of engineers and workers involved. This bridge stands as a symbol of humanity's ability to conquer even the vastest spaces, turning impossible distances into ordinary roads. Who would have thought that an albatross can fly for hours without flapping its wings? These seabirds are true masters of gliding. They skillfully utilize the air currents above the ocean, allowing them to soar for hours with minimal energy expenditure. Some albatrosses spend years at sea, rarely landing on land. They sleep on the water, feed on fish, and feel at home in the ocean. Imagine a whole life in the sky above the sea, where wings become sails. Albatrosses are a symbol of freedom, and their ability to fly almost effortlessly amazes even scientists. In English, there is a record-breaking word, set. It has over 400 meanings. It all depends on the context. You can set the table, set the alarm, or set a record. The same short word can represent an action, a state, or an object. Imagine if we had a word that could mean book, to go, and bright. English is incredibly flexible in this regard, and such words make it rich and vibrant. For language learners, set is a real puzzle that requires a dictionary to navigate. A group of owls is called a parliament. This sounds very symbolic, as the owl has been regarded as a wise bird since ancient times. In Greek mythology, it accompanied the goddess Athena, and in the Middle Ages it became a symbol of knowledge and magic. Perhaps that's why people decided that a gathering of owls resembles a meeting of sages discussing important matters. Imagine a forest at night, dozens of owls perched on branches, conversing as if they were discussing an agenda. Of course, they have no politics, but the term has taken root in the language. This is a wonderful example of how human imagination gives animals vivid and memorable names. Galapagos marine iguanas can hold their breath for up to an hour. These unusual lizards live on the Galapagos Islands and feed on seaweed. To find food, they dive into the ocean and can stay underwater for up to 60 minutes. Their bodies are adapted so that blood is directed only to vital organs during this time, conserving oxygen. They expel excess salt through special glands in their noses, sneezing out salty droplets. On land, they bask in the sun, while in the sea they become true underwater divers. This is a unique example of reptiles adapting to oceanic life. Camels are the champions of the desert. They can drink up to 130 litres of water in just 13 minutes. It's like a person draining an entire bathtub in one go. Their bodies are designed to retain moisture. Their blood and tissues are adapted to withstand dehydration, and they hardly sweat at all. Because of this, camels survive where other animals wouldn't last a day. It's no wonder they are called ships of the desert. They carry loads and people across the scorching sands like enormous living water tanks. Leonardo da Vinci observed a mathematical law in the most ordinary trees. In his notes, he remarked that if you sum the thickness of all the branches of a tree at a certain height, it equals the thickness of the trunk. This remarkable observation has been confirmed by modern research. Trees that follow this rule withstand strong winds and storms better. Leonardo made a discovery that ecologists and biologists still use today. It turns out that the artist and inventor recognized patterns in nature that science was only able to prove centuries later. A true example of how a genius was ahead of his time. Once, Xerox was not a generic term but a proud brand name. Today, we say make a photocopy even when using a completely different machine. This is an example of so-called brand genericide, when a name becomes so popular that it turns into a generic term. The same has happened with escalator, Scotch tape, and even Frisbee. For the company, this is not a cause for celebration, but a serious loss. They lose legal protection, and the brand no longer belongs to its creators. The paradox is that excessive fame can turn into a disaster. You created a legend, and now it roams the world without you. We all dream of hitting the big jackpot, but the odds are so slim that even the trip to buy a ticket is more dangerous. Statistics show that the likelihood of dying on the way to the kiosk is higher than winning the grand prize. It's funny, but it's true. This doesn't mean buying a ticket is pointless. After all, excitement and hope are part of the game. But it's important to remember, true luck isn't about winning millions. It's about getting home safe. So when someone says, "I'm pretty sure I'm going to win," you can reply, "The main thing is not to get into an accident on the way." Sometimes just living life is the biggest win. Time on Mercury is arranged in an unusual way. This small world completes an orbit around the Sun in just 88 Earth days, but its own rotation takes twice as long, 176 days. This means that one day on Mercury lasts longer than its year. Imagine, mornings stretch on for months, and sunsets are events celebrated like holidays. For astronomers, this is an intriguing paradox, but for future colonists, it poses a real challenge. Living on a planet where days last half a year means completely restructuring one's rhythm of life. Nature has a way of surprising us by breaking the familiar laws of time. In the late 90s, Furby toys appeared in the US. Furry, chatty creatures with electronic eyes. Rumours circulated that they could record conversations and send them somewhere. It got to the point where they were officially banned from government facilities, including the National Security Agency. Of course, it turned out that Furbies were not spies at all, just a myth and panic surrounding a new toy. But history shows how people sometimes fear technology. A toy designed for children's play briefly became a dangerous agent. Funny, isn't it? In Norway, they came up with a strange yet fun competition, the Championship for Throwing Frozen Salmon. Imagine people gathering in a square, taking a huge fish and throwing it as far as they can. It started as a joke among fishermen, but has since become a tradition that attracts tourists from all over the world. The atmosphere is more like a celebration. Music, food, fun, and fish flying through the air. It may seem crazy, but it's these kinds of things that make a culture unique. Every country has its own quirky pastimes. Some have bulls, some have pancakes, and in Norway there's flying salmon. The Rialto Bridge is the oldest and most famous in Venice. It was built in the 16th century and has been slowly sinking ever since. The city is built on stilts and constantly battles the water, which is why the bridge is gradually descending as well. Over the centuries, it has been restored and reinforced multiple times to preserve this symbol of Venice. However, the underlying issue remains. The sea is slowly reclaiming its territory. For tourists, Rialto is a romantic spot with a view of the Grand Canal, while for engineers, it presents an ongoing challenge. Each stone here serves as a reminder that Venice is beautiful and fragile, and its wonders require constant care and protection. In Australia, there is Lake Hillier, which changes colour from soft pink to deep purple. This effect is created by special algae and minerals. Imagine flying in a plane and seeing a bright pink spot among the greenery of the island, as if a giant spilled strawberry yogurt. Scientists are still debating why the shade is so stable, as even in a bottle, the water from the lake retains its colour. For tourists, it is one of the most unusual sights, a natural palette that looks like a scene from a sci-fi movie. The name John is familiar to everyone, but few consider how ancient it is. Its history spans over 4,000 years. It appears in texts from various cultures and eras, surviving changes in languages, religions, and traditions. Today, it remains one of the most common names in the English-speaking world. One could say that John is a bridge between ancient civilizations and modernity. Imagine, millions of people for thousands of years have responded to this simple yet resonant name. It carries the strength of tradition and symbolizes resilience, having endured through the centuries without losing its relevance. A true veteran among humanity's names. In the old houses of Venice and Florence, secret staircases hidden within the walls are still being discovered. Aristocrats built them as a backup escape route in case of danger or attack. These concealed passages led to secret rooms or allowed for a discreet exit from the house. Today, such discoveries captivate tourists. You enter an old mansion and suddenly find a small door, behind which lies a narrow spiral staircase, leading who knows where. It feels as if the house itself is guarding its secrets. These architectural tricks serve as a reminder that life in past centuries was not only luxurious, but also dangerous, requiring caution and clever solutions. The sea lily may seem like a flower, but it is actually an ancient animal. The name is misleading. Sea lilies look like flowers on long stems, but they are echinoderms, distant relatives of starfish and sea urchins. They live on the ocean floor and feed by filtering water, capturing tiny crustaceans and protozoa like living nets. Since ancient times, sea lilies have been considered some of the oldest creatures. Their ancestors appeared hundreds of millions of years ago and survived numerous mass extinctions. Interestingly, nature sometimes creates animals that resemble plants, which can confuse even scientists. The tall towers on old fire stations were not just for aesthetics, but served practical purposes. If you look closely at these old buildings, you can almost always spot a high tower. It was used not only for watching over the city and signalling fires, but also for drying long hoses after use. Wet hoses couldn't be stored coiled up. They would deteriorate quickly. So, they were hung in the tower, stretching down to their full length. Sometimes signal balls or lanterns were displayed on the tower to alert neighbouring stations about a fire. Thus, these towers functioned as dryers, communication systems, and symbols of vigilance. You won't believe it, but a parrot swore at the funeral of a US president. Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of America, had a favourite parrot. His owner often cursed, and the bird quickly picked up the habit. When Jackson died, the parrot was brought to the funeral, but instead of a solemn silence, the guests heard a stream of profanity. The priest had to ask for it to be removed to avoid embarrassing the attendees. It created a strange scene, a president known for his strong character and his feathered friend, who seemed to continue his speech even after death. The story shows that even parrots can leave a vivid legacy. There's a myth that a duck's quack doesn't echo. In reality, that's not true. Physics works the same for all sounds. It's just that a duck's quack has a frequency and duration that make the echo seem quiet and unnoticeable. In a quiet place, you can catch it, but under normal conditions it fades away. So the myth arises from the peculiarities of our hearing, not from nature itself. It's amusing how often we create legends to explain ordinary things. A duck quacks with an echo. It's just hard to hear. So next time by the pond, try to listen closely. You might catch that hidden stereo. In Egypt, there is a funny yet important rule: no kissing camels. Tourists often want to take close-up photos with these animals, but it's not safe. First, camels can be unpredictable and may easily show aggression. Second, they carry infections that can be transmitted to humans. That's why the authorities decided to officially warn: no romance with camels. It's amusing that such a sign seems almost like a joke, but in reality, it protects the health of both people and the animals themselves. Sometimes rules sound silly, but they carry a simple truth. Respect nature and don't intrude where you don't belong. 4,500 years ago in ancient Egypt, people were making dental prosthetics. Archaeologists have found jaws with artificial teeth secured by gold wire. Of course, it looked crude compared to modern technologies, but for its time, it was a medical marvel. Imagine how a priest or noble could smile again despite losing their teeth. The Egyptians always sought to defy time, from embalming bodies to the first attempts at prosthetics. In this, they were true pioneers. Long before the invention of the microscope, an ancient Roman scholar suspected the existence of microbes. Marcus Terentius Varro, in the 1st century BC, wrote that living near swamps is dangerous. There, he claimed, tiny invisible creatures linger that can enter the body through the mouth and nose and cause diseases. No one had microscopes back then, but Varro's keen observation was remarkable. His advice was long regarded as merely the warning of an elder, but centuries later it was confirmed. Malaria-carrying mosquitoes and numerous pathogenic microbes indeed thrived in swamps. Thus, Varro effectively made one of the earliest hypotheses about the existence of bacteria and viruses. The largest spider on the planet is the Goliath bird eater. Its leg span can reach 30 centimetres and it weighs over 170 grams. This hairy giant can hunt not only insects, but also small rodents, lizards, and even chicks. When encountered, it can produce a frightening hissing sound by rubbing its legs together. Despite its fearsome appearance, its bite is not deadly to humans. It's similar to a wasp sting. However, the impression of an encounter is strong. It's like a small dog in the world of spiders. Scientists call it the king of spiders, and it's hard to argue with that. You won't believe it, but Isaac Newton was a secret agent. At the end of the 17th century, he was appointed as the Master of the Royal Mint in England. At that time, the country was suffering from an influx of counterfeiters. Newton didn't limit himself to office work. He disguised himself, visited taverns, gathered evidence, and brought criminals to justice. His efforts led to dozens of arrests. So the author of the Laws of Mechanics was simultaneously waging a real battle against the underground. History remembers him as a great scientist, but few know that part of his life resembled a spy novel. The computer keyboard is something we touch every day, but we rarely think about how many germs are on it. Studies show that there are often more bacteria on the keys than on a toilet seat. Crumbs, dust, and grease from our hands create the perfect environment for microbial life. Therefore, regular cleaning is not just a whim, but a matter of health. Sometimes, simply wiping the keyboard with disinfecting wipes or using a special vacuum for electronics is enough. So, as you type a message or play a game, remember, beneath your fingers lies an entire zoo. And perhaps computer hygiene is more important than we tend to think. A story that sounds like a spy novel. Scientologists infiltrated US government agencies. In the 1970s, followers of this religion conducted Operation Snow White. Their goal was to destroy documents that could harm the church. Scientologists secretly entered buildings, stole materials, and attempted to sabotage investigations. Ultimately, the FBI uncovered the conspiracy, making it one of the largest cases of illegal infiltration into government structures. For many, this event was shocking. A religious organisation operated using intelligence agency tactics. It turns out that real life can sometimes be far more dramatic than fiction in movies. It may seem like ordinary things, but if you take a closer look, they hold the most unexpected stories. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of curiosities, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's even more to come that textbooks have kept silent about.